in fact, was a distraction established by Jewish philanthropy to deter Africans from back to Africa to get involved in poetry, art, science, music, as a distraction and a diversion from the goals and aspirations of Marcus Garvey. Du Bois, along with the first black Rhodes Scholar, Elaine Locke, who was 1908 to 1910. There was not another Rhodes Scholar till 1963. That Elaine Locke was a part with Du Bois of humiliating Marcus Garvey by calling them names like gorilla, dark, dumb masses, and they hedged their bet. We have found documentation where Du Bois and Elaine Locke had stated clearly that we hope this white man delivers because we've crushed a great black thing. But we know the white man will be delivered or our people will attack us and plague us forevermore. You didn't know that they played and hedged their bet that Marcus Garvey was wrong about the white man. Marcus Garvey was not wrong about the white man. And by never telling you who they are, you can never hold them responsible for the bet they made when they put the money to win on the white man. Carter G. Woodson, years after being a Boule, wrote a book, The Miseducation of the Negro. Years after having been used in the founding member of the D.C. Boule in 1908. Knew that education, see, these were college. The key to all of these men were college education. So when he saw it and saw what had happened to him, he said we were miseducated by the damn thing. It was a fix. And that was coming to expose something that he had been. Du Bois, years after being left to dry by the Boule, left to dry by the NAACP, whose leader Joel Spingard and his mentor had been a spy for military intelligence, which came out in the Memphis Commercial Appeal story, that showed that Du Bois too, years later, sought to repent for what he had done. But he never exposed the Boule. He only personally felt humiliated for having bet wrong. And that's why we had to know that they made a bet, that there was an organized cross-out.
So he never nullified his membership in the Boule?
He never told the secrets related to the Boule. Hold on just a second, brother. Yes, brother.
All right, what you were saying earlier at the beginning, all right, listening to all of this, and I heard you on the radio Monday morning. All right, now, there's going to be out of all of us, or even if we compare it to the mass populace, there's going to be 80% of us that if you show them the truth and put it right in front of their face, they still are going to deny it. They ain't going to want to admit up to it. They don't give a shit about it, pardon me, ladies. They don't give a damn about none of this black stuff. I saw that looking at Minister Society. You talk black to these young kids now, and I'm 40 years old. I grew up in the black movement where it was something to be proud of. How do we go about explaining this to these young gangbangers who are future warriors? Since they don't give a damn about nothing, why not channel their energy, like Farrakhan used to say, for our liberation? If you don't give a damn about dying, you make the best soldier. All right, now all of us in here, most of us are going to go out, most of us are going to forget what we've heard. Most of us are going to...
Hold it, stop now. Are you going to forget what you heard?
Oh, no, I'm not.
Then you can only speak for yourself. Don't speak against anyone else. Stop now. I want you to turn to them and tell them that you won't speak for them like you just did.
What now?
Turn to them and tell them you won't speak for them like you... Because you said something negative about them.
I have no right to say that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All right.
But what can we do as a unit or as a people to educate the others that maybe have not had a chance to come in here and get this knowledge that you express?
Okay. I would suggest probably at this day, which is July 6, 1993, that I could walk in most of the cities and bring you the people who had those organizations that you talked about. And right now they could stand up here and turn to you and do just what I did, because their lessons are done privately, yours are done publicly. If you went to the gang summit in Kansas City and they got through discussing, well, what are we going to do now, all that we work together? You watch the Bloods and the Crips. You watch this one and that one. From all those cities stood up and say, well, let's do what Coakley does. Let's work on those names he gave us. So I make a suggestion to you that everybody that's on it might not look like they're on it. Everybody that knows it doesn't have to say, hey, guess what? I know it. I think we want to make sure that each and every person can handle themselves. And if you can take this and teach another person, then whatever it is that's out there that another person doesn't like, which is what people do when they don't know who the enemy is, they beat themselves. Part of what we do by exposing who the enemy is we stop misplaced aggression. So we can look at the numbers and see that the crowds are increasing and more people know than they ever knew. And I think those youngsters might know more than the adults. And to tell you honestly, I place my bet on them.
That's right. That's right.
I place my bet on the little ones who don't have jobs, who didn't go to school,
That's right.
who don't have the cars nor the houses, because they're the ones that are going to fight. They just need to know who to fight and how to fight effectively. There were not college-educated Vietnamese who dug deep holes in the grounds and lived with rats, dogs, and cats, and worms, and other things that scare Americans. I suggest to you that there are elements who are ready while we work with the masses to have them understand what they'll come to witness. You see, if you don't get this lesson to see what's going on, when it happens, you get confused and think something went wrong.
That's right.
And again, remember this. We're the horse that lays on the rail. We're not breaking ass till it says spinning out of the turn. Here's the track. We started here. Somebody say, hey, that's Billy. He's way out in front. Well, we're going to get no points for leading. But as we make it around that track, we might be laying at the road. Here comes the Boule. Here comes the Rhodes Rothschild. Here comes Skull and Bones. They're way out in front. But when that man say, here they come spinning out of the turn, then somewhere that black liberation horse going to kick ass, and from here to there, we're going to finish right. The goal is to finish first. So somewhere down the line, we're not going to look good. Because looking good is not necessarily the signal you want to send before you strike. So you might, I tell people, you better be able to run out of your house in any of 4 directions and have someplace buried straight edges, clothes, flashlights, and other things, food that you may need. And you won't know how many people have prepared for this until you go out and dig your hole, because you might look up and not find room for your stuff. All right. Who else? Yes, brother.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think the Boule can be used in a way to manipulate the United States government, as in what they did in France in like about 1983? The Communist Party took over and they took the Rothschild Bank there and nationalized all of their personal holdings in France. This was just in the 80s. So
that nationalization in France did not in any way inhibit the Rothschild finance.
Right, yeah.
In the context of that, if you have money and someone says, well, there's your money in the pot, and you change who supervises it, as long as they know where it go and where it's spent, who to give it to, you don't really care who tends to it. Like you don't care if Bradley is the mayor, Bradley know what butt to kiss. He can be that person. And what was the other part of your question? Can it be used? This is interesting. That's an interesting statement. On the radio once in D.C., a lady called in who said her father was a Boule. And she said that, how do you know that these Boule don't feel the way you feel about the white man? I said, well, the goal is that while we're passing in the night, I'm going to turn my light on and say, who go there? And they got to identify themselves. And the goal is that we're going to get the wizard late one night. And they have to decide whether they're with us, whether they're against us, or they just going to call in sick and take a walk. So they've got to identify their role while we're in the process of searching and destroying the beast. So that it's up to them to identify where, because they're already into a context of mixed signals. One thing I wanted to show you before it got too late is that this Boule, in fact, picks their people and makes their people leaders. And this is from the book on the Rockefeller family. And this is in the index, in the footnote on page 424. It talked about how Whitney Young wouldn't come against the Rockefellers at the Charlottesville massacre. And this talks about how the Rockefellers do most of their Boule leaders. Junior had maintained, as Junior Rockefeller, had maintained the contact with black organizations begun with his involvement in Tuskegee, Hampton, Spelman, and other southern colleges at the turn of the century. For a time, he had token donations of some $500 a year to the NAACP. However, in '38, his philanthropy advisor, Arthur Packer, wrote a letter to Rockefeller questioning the future of this relationship because he was upset that the NAACP was insisting on trying to push